welcome to Experts Corner. This is Maheen Jafri. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at the dangerous and delusional remarks passed by Indian Defence Minister Rajnath regarding Sindh. He calls it a land that may not be a part of India, but civilizationally it's part of India. And he said as far as the land is concerned, he says borders can change. The Foreign Office has really slammed these remarks and said that these comments reflect the Indians' expansionist mindset, and also it challenges the reality, the established reality, and calls them that it is a clear violation of the international law. Now, we're taking a look at how these provocative statements again and again coming from the Indian side might also just not violate the international law, but also can be a danger for the stability of this region. Secondly, we'd be taking a look at the involvement of Afghan Taliban in the recent terror attacks. Today, as we know, 3 FC men were martyred in Peshawar outside the headquarters by a suicide blast. And we also know that Jamaat al-Ahrar, a faction of TTP, has taken responsibility for that. And this is second such major attack happening on Peshawar on sensitive installations after 3 years. And also we know that today 5 suspects were arrested in Ziyarat, Balochistan. Huge cache of weapons were seized. On 21st of November, IBO conducted and 8 Khwarij were sent to hell. 20th of November, not to forget, was a time when Afghan Taliban Trade Minister visited India to boost ties. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif and President of the country has really condemned these attacks, and they have collectively said that these attacks could not weaken the resolve of Pakistan's war against terrorism. Now, for further analysis, we've been joined by Mr. Farrukh Pitafi in our studio, and Mr. Aizaz Chaudhry, former Foreign Secretary of Pakistan, will be joining us online. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining in.
Thank you.
Mr. Aizaz Ahmad Chaudhry, looking at the statement coming from India, rather repeated provocations coming from India, and this time it's the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh saying that Sindh is a part of India, and it was civilizationally a part of India as well, and can become a part of India as far as the borders are concerned. What is your comment on that?
Well, I agree with the Foreign Ministry's characterization of this irresponsible comment as being delusional. I think BJP is, making a fool of itself by questioning the existence of Pakistan. Everybody knows that this country has existed for 78 years, and every part of the territory of Pakistan, particularly the Sindh province, very much cares for how Pakistan would defend itself. So this does reflect the mindset of Akhand Bharat that they often project. And I know that from the study of history, that there was never an Akhand Bharat or United India. India was always home to a range of linguistic, ethnic, and other groupings in various parts of the subcontinent. Only the British brought some administrative unity, and before that, maybe the Mughal Empire. But this delusion in their mind is essentially meant to convey a feeling of greatness to the people of India. But where it actually runs into problem is that they also don't want non-Hindus to live there. And that means that good 20% of people living in India have already been alienated. And from amongst Hindus, because of caste system, the low caste Hindus also don't really identify the vision that they have. So I think it is delusional for them to be keeping at it for such a long time. The sad part is that even the Congress, which claims to be secular party, has also a similar kind of expectation from history and future. Whereas that's not the case. That's never been the case. You would recall that after the Pahalgam incident and before the May 2025 confrontation, a sitting MP from Congress had published an article in Chandigarh Tribune saying that it is time for Pak end game and to take India's borders to the eastern bank of River Indus. So this kind of delusional talk naturally vitiates the environment in South Asia and will never allow India to achieve the kind of global role that it wants to achieve. So in many ways, by such statements, India is hurting itself because unless it becomes a regional power at peace with neighbors, it can never become a global power that matters.
Absolutely. Ambassador Saab, it is fortuitous that you have mentioned also Congress, because beyond, Akhand Bharat, there seems to be this pathology that India always wants to externalize its own internal crises, and their most favorite whipping boy seems to be Pakistan. And when it comes to Rajnath Singh also, it seems that he continuously keeps on talking about Pakistan. Earlier, he was talking about Sir Creek and now this. What do you think is happening in Indian mind? Why do you think they want to use Pakistan so much, and why does it work?
I think of late, India is feeling humiliated by what happened in May this year, and there's a deep frustration there to take a kind of revenge to resume Operation Sindoor, but they are not able to do that. They are not able to do that because they have learned to their own dismay that Pakistan can stand up to a bully, that Pakistan can defend itself, and that India's entire narrative of terrorism has been busted. It has been busted by Pahalgam. For good 2.5 decades, India had tried to convince the world that terrorism was being sponsored by Pakistan, whereas in actual reality, it was India which was committing terrorism in Pakistan through proxies and also through direct financing of assassinations, target assassinations in Pakistan. So for the first time, it was Pahalgam where the world refused to believe India. And in frustration of that, they are now, making all these wild statements, which will not cut much ice. Yes, I know that there is also an electoral dimension to it because all the elections in India are run on anti Muslim and anti Pakistan vote. This time around, also, they tried to bring in Pakistan into it because they have to project it to the Hindu majority that look, this we will revive the Hindu glory of India. There was never a Hindu glory of India. Even the map that they have put up in the mural map in the new building of the Indian Parliament, they did it 2 years ago. That map extends from Afghanistan to Myanmar, includes even Nepal and Bangladesh and Pakistan and every other country in between. What is this? I mean, this is delusional. What else can I say? And then by making such statements, they're only expressing their frustration, and the world is forming an opinion about India that the United States was trying to prepare India to counter China as a counterbalance to China. But here is a country which cannot even even manage Pakistan's confrontation with Pakistan. So India's overall profile has taken a big hit, and this frustration is being manifested by statements like these. I don't think the people of India will even get impressed, but their own vote bank perhaps will be. But the people of Pakistan certainly look at these statements with great deal of scorn and contempt that it deserves.
Right, Ambassador Aizaz, since we were talking about, it's continuous embarrassment on the international stage, and let us start from some realities that the world has seen, and let's not, let's start from Tejas. It crashed, unfortunately, at Dubai Air Show. The new SCIRF report says that India should be a country of particular concern. Then in May, the world saw that we destroyed the Rafales, and BJP is also accused in home of frauds of elections in Bihar. Now, how do you think all these facts combined would alter the opinion of the world more and more about India, regarding India being more like, let me use the word, foolish state, because extremely delusional? How would you look at the entire context that I described, and then give us a comment?
Yeah, I agree with you because we saw recently, after the May 2025 confrontation, it was India which requested the US for a ceasefire. The proof is that the Congress is asking the BJP, if it was not the US, was it then Pakistan? And if it was Pakistan, that means you have accepted defeat from Pakistan. That's why you held ceasefire. Otherwise, why would you seize your fire? So the United States also, including its president, are deeply upset that on the one hand, here is a country which makes a request for ceasefire, and on the other hand, it refuses to accept that the US had mediated. The world is now beginning to, size up India for the stature that it has, and not for the statures that it aspires. Another element worth pointing out is that India and United States have been partners for such a good about 2.5 decades actually, particularly ever since 9/11, and US invested heavily to build economic and military prowess of India. But in return, they are totally disappointed by India's performance. Its Air Force lost its planes. Its army tried to expand conventional warfare dangerously close to the nuclear level, because it is Pakistan's belief that between the nuclear armed states, there should be no space for conventional wars. But India is constantly expanding that space, which is scaring away the world, because the world realizes now India is becoming an irresponsible nuclear state, because nuclear states don't behave like that the way India has been behaving. All that bravado actually is lowering the image of of India in the eyes of the rest of the world. So I pity the kind of leadership that India has come to attain, which is taking the country down in the eyes of the rest of the world.
Right. Ambassador Saab, earlier you spoke about casteism in India, and that was very insightful comment because it seems to, what they call caste consolidation. It does take place whenever they externalize matter and blame Muslims, or for that matter Pakistan. It seems to be working despite the fact that Dalits and Shudras, I'm sorry, let me be politically correct, OBCs, they all are treated really poorly in India. Even then it seems to be delivering electoral results for BJP. Now, is there a possibility that India realizes that this is already happening, and they start actually resuming relations with Pakistan? I ask you because you recently wrote a beautiful book on the matter of India-Pakistan as well, sir.
Yes, I am not seeing that possibility of India trying to revive dialogue with Pakistan at the moment. And I think unless they get rid of their delusion that India is a great power, that it can create a kind of a Khand Bharat, uh, the mutual mistrust between the two countries will never lessen. India has successfully managed to, gloss over the issue of caste system and project Hindus as a united force which is ready to achieve a greater status in the comity of nations. But all this is perceptional. I think this will not carry much water for too long. As for Pakistan, I'm sorry to say, but at the moment I am not very optimistic about the revival of any dialogue with India, even though Pakistan always remains ready for dialogue. I'm very glad that the policymakers of Pakistan have never closed that option. But India has stopped all kinds of links with, with Pakistan. Even the players are not allowed to shake hands after the matches. So it has gone to a absolutely new low that we see. Uh, I feel that should there ever be an awakening in India or Indian elite, that their global profile will never be will never take the heights that it desires unless India can take the region along. Unless this awakening takes place, our relationship with with Pakistan, with other neighbors in South Asia will never improve. Secondly, India must also realize that its hegemonic designs are not acceptable to Pakistan, not even to Bangladesh or even smaller countries like Nepal and Sri Lanka and even Maldives. You remember, Maldives quit Indian troops movement was the electoral campaign on which the president of that country won its elections. In Nepal, they have had given two economic embargoes to Nepal. In one of those economic embargoes, I was actually in Kathmandu, and I could see how much the Nepalese felt bad about the policies that India was following, the hegemonic policies. So my sense, and Bangladesh also, I was there when Sheikh Hasina was there, and I could see the pent up feelings there because Indian operatives were everywhere in every ministry and were dominating the life in Bangladesh. No country, no sovereign country likes to have a hegemon around it, breathing down its neck. And therefore, India has to come to grips with the reality that if really wants to sit on the high table at the global plane, then it has to carry the region along. That basically means to have to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all its neighbors. And statements like the one Rajnath Singh made today about Sindh clearly shows that BJP government is not showing the kind of respect for territorial integrity of Pakistan that we would expect. Perhaps they would have a similar kind of designs with us, because I remember that even with Nepal, there was a sliver of territory that Nepal claimed was theirs, but India took it forcefully from them. So such a big country with such a small heart, one fails to understand.
Right. Thank you very much, Aizaz. Ahmad Chaudhry, former Foreign Secretary of Pakistan, for joining us and giving us your views, precious views on the latest statement coming from the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, where he clearly calls Sindh as a land of and a part of India, which Foreign Office has slammed, and said that this is entirely a delusional statement. Farrukh Pitafi, a quick comment from you before we wrap up the segment.
Yeah, I think that all we need to do is laugh out loud at such statements, because they are clearly not only delusional, they seem to be actually coming from a point of weakness. There's this folk singer who actually mocks Modi ji a lot, Neha Singh Rathore. It reminds me of one of her very famous line, Zindagi Jhandwa Phir Bhi Ghamandwa. Right? And the life sucks. And yet we have this arrogance about us, right? And I think that right now, on one side is Tejas that crashed, on the other side, they seem to be once again talking about us. I don't want to denigrate people. I do not want to actually take pleasure in any kind of destruction of life or property. But honestly, when somebody actually behaves in such way, then when they want to be mean, it is just meanness, then one has to laugh out loud.
Right. And a very quick comment on how on the kind of conflicts India has internally. How would it deal with that? Because one wrong move and it already has such vulnerable parts inside India, like northwest and even in the middle and south.
Seven sisters are known to have the crisis that is going on, but that is not all. If you want to understand a country which is in pain, look at the kind of numbers they release. India has stopped giving out numbers about anything. Job creation, poverty figures, umpteen other things, right? So what is happening right now is that India's current government is destroying it, right? So naturally, when people are in pain, what do? They go the easiest route. Unfortunately, that comes at Pakistan's door. But why should that be? If you really want to call yourself a great power or a big power, influential, civilizational state, why the hell would you like Pakistan to take the brunt of that?
Absolutely, K.Pitafi, thank you for your comment on this section. And now we'd move towards the second segment, which is about the involvement of Taliban in the recent terror attack in Pakistan. And we also know that 3 FC men were martyred today in front of the headquarters in Peshawar because of a suicide blast. And Jamaat al-Ahrar, a faction of TTP, has taken responsibility. Now, K.Pitafi, coming to you again, what do you think of the terror attacks that are happening continuously? And we know for a fact that there is clear footprint of Afghan Taliban in that.
Right. The biggest problem at this moment is that Afghan Taliban seem to actually think that it is perhaps a good idea to stand with such elements which have actually in the past also. Remember that when last time Taliban were in government, at that time also they kept on harboring foreign terrorists like Al-Qaeda, others. And in the end, those people caused them all the suffering that was there. So if the Afghan Taliban keep on doing this, do you think that everybody is just going to go to sleep? They don't have any kind of leverage at all. I think at this moment, they are extorting everybody but Pakistan. Pakistan has refused to play that game, that give us money and then we are going to take care of the elements that are creating problem in your country. So when that happens, they will keep on trying to extort us, but I'm sure that other countries are tired of being extorted. So in the end, everyone is going to stand together and take it out on Afghan Taliban.
Right. We are now joined by Zahir Shah, Sherazi, analyst. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. Zahir Shah, Sherazi, the fact that we are being bombarded from the Afghan side almost every day, there's an attack happening, and we know for a fact that Afghan Taliban, there is an involvement in that. How would you comment, provided the fact that Jamaat al-Ahrar today, the faction of TTP, has taken responsibility for the attack that happened today?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very serious issue because this is not a normal attack. Actually, they have struck this time in the red zone, and this Frontier Constabulary headquarters, it is just like you can say about half a kilometer from the Corps Commander's house, from the Chief Minister's house, from the Governor's house, and a number of key government buildings are on this road, are like just 100 yards away from here. The claim by the TTP faction, Jamaat al-Ahrar, I think it's the splinter group of the Taliban, which are mostly from Mohmand and Bajoud tribal districts. Perhaps I think Pakistan has shown a lot of restraint. It's time, as Farrukh was mentioning, that for how long the people would be just listening to them and just accepting what a wrong narrative they are giving to the world. I think the Denmark permanent representative have very clearly told the United Nations Security Council that the TTP faction is a serious threat not only to Pakistan but the regional countries, Central Asian republics, as well as Iran, Russia, China. The Russian envoy was also, skeptical about the presence of more than 2,000 ISIL or ISK fighters who are there in Afghanistan, and they are a potential threat to Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, even Kyrgyzstan and Russia. So I think it's now time the international community has started raising their concerns. The Afghan Taliban regime, which I believe is not a legitimate government, but it's a kind of a stopgap arrangement which was imposed on the Afghan nation. So their ideology or their point of view is not the point of view of millions of Afghans who are coerced, who are being gagged in, who are deprived of their routine daily life and even human rights. Women have no rights. The minorities have no rights. The non-Pashtuns, which are mostly living in the northern part of Afghanistan, they don't have any say in the government. So I think it's time, internally and externally, the Taliban regime should be given a very clear message whether they wanted to behave as a responsible state or they are still operating like warlords or the criminal terrorist elements.
Right. Sherazi Saab, how do you see the international community now taking its steps? Because you rightly mentioned the Denmark pointing out that TTP is a regional threat, and we already have proof Pakistan has presented its case. Now, what do you see? How would be the next step of the international community when it comes to dealing with the threat emanating as TTP?
Well, actually, again, the SCO meeting, they didn't invite Afghanistan again. It means they are still concerned about the law and order situation, about the militant groups' presence. Even last time in the Moscow format meeting, even India and which represented there, the Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi was very clearly conveyed that they have to rein in the terrorist group if they wanted to have development, they wanted to have trade. Now, the way the Afghan Taliban regime is behaving, I think they are even not accepting the UN declared terrorist groups like BLA, TTP as terrorist organization. They are taking them as political opponents of Pakistan, which is a very serious issue. The second thing, I think, the western border issue is very serious for Pakistan as long as the hostile proxies are supporting the TTP, BLA, and the terrorist groups. I think the incidents which took place today in the provincial capital of Northwest Frontier Province at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, I think it would be again repeating. So we have to be very realistic. We have to change our strategy, the kinetic operation apart, but we have to take action against all those elements inside Pakistan who are supporting, financing, or sympathizing with these elements. Today, a very positive thing happened. We have an open condemnation by the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Suhail Afridi, and he, openly condemned this terrorist incident. He also extended all-out support to the law enforcement agencies to carry out joint operation against the militants and defeat them. Both the Corps Commander and the Chief Minister were together at the funeral of the martyrs. So I think this is a very clear message that now perhaps the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government has started realizing that this terrorism is a serious threat not only to the province, but it is also undermining Pakistan's security and sovereignty.
Right. Sherazi Sahab, you covered a lot of ground, but let me go back to two very important points that you made. One is regarding the border, and of course, hardening of that border has been a persistent concern, and we have seen that new monies have been earmarked for fencing, completing the entire fencing process. Like last time I checked, it was 98%. Now I hope that we are going to go for 100%, including, of course, Goldsmith line. The second aspect is what you were talking about, like law enforcement, particularly red zone. We know that IBOs continue without any pause. Now the question is, how exactly do you think is the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government and the federal government are going to ensure that those areas which have recently come under attack, like you pointed out, the security can be further hardened and it is ensured that nobody is further damaged?
Well, Farrukh, actually, the real problem is the conflict between the provincial government and the federal government. Actually, they are passing on the onus on each other. The KP government, yes, they have their issues. They must have the net hydro profit issues. They must have the development funds issues coming from the center. But actually, they are using this TTP and the terrorism issue as a kind of a political stunt, even to force the federal government to, give leverage to their jailed party chief. But I think this is not the case. They have to be very serious. I think there are.
Your voice, unfortunately, is breaking. If you can please continue. I think we lost the connection. Farrukh Pitafi, if you can continue with the point that he was mentioning.
He is back, yep.
Yes, please. We have lost the connection again.
The connection is gone. So no matter, I'm here and we are going to talk about the importance for what we still need to do, right? One thing is for sure, if you remember that when last time we had this revision of the National Election Plan, there was talk of ensuring that all intelligence agencies find a mechanism or create a mechanism to ensure that information is shared. So right now, I think it is high time that that happens, because without that, while we keep on actually carrying out IBOs, but if the federal government, provincial government are not actually singing from the same hymn sheet, then it becomes a problem. So there has to be some kind of contextualization and bringing all of that together. Then, of course, the civilian side has to actually take ownership. We had committed monies in NFC award regarding various other things. Those monies have not actually appeared. They have not been actually spent. So it is important that you start reforming in the areas where there might be a possibility of incursions from Afghanistan, so that these people don't reach to the settled areas, and we can ensure that all areas that are there, ex-FATA areas, they can be properly taken care of, that nobody is disgruntled or so vulnerable that they can be attacked.
Farrukh Pitafi, if we try to connect the dots, if you remember, the attack happened on Chaman. We know that Amir Khan Muttaqi was in India warming up ties, and now that there's a series of these attacks happening, we know that Afghan Taliban Trade Minister visited India on 20th of November. How do you connect these dots?
Yeah, actually, one thing that I really want to express my disappointment about, while we keep on seeing these statements talking about TTP as negative elements and danger to the region, and of course these so-called sanctions on Afghan Taliban as well. Sadly, the way UN actually allows India to use these people as their proxies, that whenever India calls up any minister, if they're going to come to Pakistan, UN sanctions are there, they cannot come. But if they want to go to India, all of a sudden they are actually welcomed and they end up there. So the question is, what is this double standard? On one side, you're condemning them. On the other side, you're allowing them to become proxies of another country like India, which seems to have actually started bullying the entire region. Ask any neighbor of India. Do you think that anybody is happy with them? Nobody. Even Bhutan, that Modi ji recently went to, I don't think even they are happy with the way India handles these countries, right? So the question is, if the UN is there, and I really believe in rule-based international order, but if this international rule-based system becomes a room of requirement, 1 minute it is there, the next minute it is not, then what am I going to do? I will have to start questioning what are these double standards and why do they continue? Does the UN system want our people dead? If not, why are you giving permission to these people to roam about, especially go to the people that really practically want to hurt Pakistan?
Absolutely. Farrukh Pitafi, we have seen UN's credibility as well, in case of Gaza and Palestine, of course. But don't you think the point that you raised, Pakistan can really try and sensitize the regional countries or those who wanted to, mediate, and then maybe they can raise this issue on international forum collectively that India should be held accountable as well?
Maheen, how many times? Yeah. We have been doing it for past 20 years. We continuously have shown the world. Unfortunately, the sad part is in the start of war on terror, while we were sacrificing, India was walking away with all the prizes, right? Because they were bullies, they had this perception that they're going to attack Pakistan if the West is not going to concede, and then that will actually interrupt the war on terror. This was their blackmailing tactic. Now Pakistan has exposed them fully. But I mean, do you seriously think nobody knows what India is doing? If India can go and kill a Canadian citizen, and then the Prime Minister, who has the gall to actually call them out, he is maneuvered out of power. Then American president actually does the same, and they make an example of that man also. And now they are trying to make example of the current one as well. Do you think any intelligence agency does not know what element is India and what exactly are Taliban? I mean, this is marriage of convenience, and sadly, there seems to be. I mean, I never thought that in this age of so many people actually always talking about them being so brave and courageous, all of a sudden I don't understand this moral cowardice that they allow India to bully them, and they allow India to behave this way in this region also.
Absolutely. Farrukh Pitafi, seems like this is a very complex situation for Pakistan. As you said, time and again, we have mentioned it to the world. We have sensitized the region. We are also presenting our case to the mediators. Then, how do you see Pakistan moving forward when it comes to at least, doing its part, whether it be the border security or, making some arrangements that they make sure that the Afghan Taliban do not cross the red line again?
Yeah, actually, there's a very simple thing that you have to understand. International system, diplomacy, everything talks about something which is out of your hand, right? It is not within your control all the time, because there are other people who are reacting to what you are saying. But you can ensure there are two things. One, hardening the border, ensuring that Afghan incursion does not take place. B, if there is any incursion, there should be such an intelligence and police, law enforcement cooperation that if they come here, immediately they are caught. And then, of course, if there is such a big attack that Afghan Taliban take part in that, or somehow, about one of the governor's son actually was killed in one of the terrorist attacks, then you strike back. But first of all, I think most important thing is things are within our control. We will not and we should not allow narrative. There used to be a time before 2014 when narrative used to confuse us and used to ensure that we cannot actually fight back. Just हमारे अपने लोग हैं, but they are estranged but others of ours, so we have to actually woo them and all that. Now we know who they are. Now we know what they have done, and it is not tolerable any longer. So let us ask everybody to come together and ensure that now there isn't going to be any hanky-panky or any kind of confusion or doubts. When there is an enemy and the enemy knows that you are the enemy and they keep on attacking you, you cannot allow them to walk free.
Absolutely. Farrukh Pitafi, since we were talking about India in our first segment, and we know the kind of stance and the kind of provocations happening from that side again and again, sometimes Operation Sindhu too, and now this delusional statement of Sindh. How do you think the warming up of ties of Afghan Taliban with the Indian government is really, emboldening the tough stance of the India, as in both of them are seeing Pakistan really, trying to make its way through and, walk in that narrow alley?
Yeah, India needs to remember what Hillary Clinton once said, that if you are going to keep snakes in your backyard, you cannot be sure that they are not going to attack you and they're just going to attack the enemies. If you are trying to embolden these people, they are going to attack you as well. Unfortunately, India's own national security advisor, who seemed to have disowned his own statement made 11 years ago, and now he calls it deep fake. That statement again shows the caliber, right? The biggest problem right now is that they don't want to own up the fact that they used to say that Afghan Taliban are our brothers and we are going to take care of Pakistan and then we are going to do whatever we want to. They will strike you. They will strike you sooner than you think, and you will regret it. Why not actually understand that not every enemy of the enemy is your friend, and stop doing it. Otherwise, it is going to really hurt Indians.
Okay, thank you so much, Farrukh Pitafi, for giving us your precious views on the important factor that how Pakistan continues its war against terrorism, especially the Afghan Taliban, and we are seeing a clear involvement of them in the recent terror attacks. As we know that today's attack, the responsibility was was claimed by Jamaat al-Ahrar, a faction of TTP, and it's unfortunate, but as we know that this is a time we need to come together as a nation and to show unity, and also Pakistan should sensitize the entire region, not just the world, in order to tell the entire world and show the proof to the world that there is an involvement of Afghan Taliban, just not that. India as well should be held accountable. This is all for tonight's show. It's Maheen Jafri signing off.